Hello, everyone. Today we will be discussing our first topic on economics. But before anything else, before we start our first discussion, so let me ask you as to why there's a need for us to study economics. But of course, for a very obvious reason, all of us we tend to economize, we tend to study economics for the reason of scarcity because there are limited resources. So because of scarcity, take note for that, or limited resources, kulang yung mga resources natin, kulang tayo sa kwarta. So kaya mag-budget kaya mag-ekonomiya So kulang tayo sa mga resources like capital, land, labor. So for example, when it comes to land, so kailangan i-budget na itong yuta so that it will produce bigger outputs, no, dahil abot or kaya sa ato ang kwarta, sa ato ang budgeton, kay gamay ra tag kwarta, o kaya sa ato ang labor, sa ato ang trabaho. So kailangan kung natin mga trabahoon, so budget na to ang mga trabahante, budget na to ang oras, no. So tanan nga mga resources nga kailangan nato i-allocate, kailangan nato i-budget. So ato siyang tipiron tungod kay kulang ang mga resources. So the main reason that why there's a need for us to study economics is scarcity or limited resources. Take note for that. Okay? So I guess you have to start our discussion now. Okay. So where's it? Okay. So there is the file. Okay. Actually, this slide is one of the slides for our review exam, but this is for economics, and let us start with microeconomics. Although in economics we'll be talking about the microeconomics, the macroeconomics, the international trade, and marketing. First, let us start with our discussion on microeconomics, or the spelling. Kamali na double A, no? So, microeconomics. Yan. So, let's proceed. So, yan, Dr. D.M. Kamay. Okay. So, microeconomics, from the word micro. Okay. Then, another one is economics. So, when we say microeconomics, we're talking about economics in a smaller sense, in a smaller economy. So, like the household, like the individual firm. Okay. So, microeconomics is the study how households and firms make decisions and how they interact in the market. So when we say economics, we're talking about the economic activity of the household, the firms, no? So what is the decision of the households and the firms? Uh, what to produce and what to consume, no? And how they interact in the market. So how the household, individual household, no, ang panimalay will react when the price of the goods changes, no? Kita sa atong balay, no, kita mismo sa sarili, we have some favorite goods, no, so we have some normal goods that we tend to consume every day. So what happens if the price of the gasoline changes? So unsa ba ang ato ang decision as individual, as a member of the household, kung mag-change ang price sa gatas, sa ato ang consumption or behavior, kung mag-change ang price sa syempre sa cellphone, no? Magkabrato, magkamahal. So what is our uh, consumption behavior for that? So what about the firms, no? When you say the firm, so kung ang raw material sa, for example, ang magbuhat o bread, no? Ang magbuhat og pan, mga bakery. So what is the decisions of the bakery when the price of the starch or the raw materials as a sugar will change? Kumusta ang ilang supply? Kumusta ang ilang production? So, yun ang tingnan ng microeconomics as opposed to the macroeconomics. When we say the macro, so we'll be talking about the economy of the nation, no? Larger sense. But microeconomics, we're just talking about a single firm, a single industry, and a single household or individual. So that's how we look at the microeconomics. So let's proceed. Okay, but what economics is all about? Okay, so yung sinabi ko kanina, the major reason that why there's a need for us to study economics is the scarcity. No, we have limited resources, limited. So kaya tayo magdaginot, kaya tayo mag-ekonomiya. So limited resources. So scarcity, the limited nature of society's resources. Then economics, the study of how society manages its scarce resources. Because our resources is limited, our resources is scarce, so we have to manage our resources in such a way that that resources will be allocated properly. No? Okay, so because of scarce resources, so how people decide what to buy. So because, for example, in our income, in our sahod, in our sweldo, kung gamay tag sweldo, so atong budgeton. So we only have to decide to we decide to buy those goods that we think are just necessary, no? So di ta mapalit atong mga luxurious nga mga goods. Ato ka lang is kanang unsa importante, unsay need. Ang need lang atong paliton tungod kay kulang ang ato ang sweldo, scarce ang atong sweldo, limited na. And how people decide what to buy, how much to work, save, and spend. Uh, how much to work, so what will be done sa atong i-produce sa atong buhaton, for example, pila atong i-produce, also affected by our resources. Kung kumpanya ta, unsa man ato ang buhaton nga mga goods, ang mga services, kung kulang ang ato ang capital. So our capital, our resources affect our production, affect our goods that we tend to produce. So apektuhan ang atong mga buhaton. And also kung gamay tag resources, it affects our savings, no? Pero kung daghan tag resources, so posible daghan tag ma-save. Kung daghan tag income, daghan tag ma-save. Kung gamay tag income, baba tag ma-save. And of course, ang atong spending habit, our spending behavior is also affected by our resources, no? As an individual, in a microeconomic sense of view, so kung gamay tag sweldo, so atong ma-spend gamay ra pod. Kaya na siya. Pero sa macroeconomics, ang gobyerno kung daghan siya income, so daghan po siya spending behavior. Alright. So also because of scarce resources, it affects the firm's decision, no? How firms decide how much to produce, how many workers to hire. So ang isang kumpanya, kung gamay ra siya resources, gamay ra siya capital, gamay ra po siya i-produce, gamay ra man siya capital. Pero kung production siya, sa agriculture siya, kung taas kayo ang resources, land, kung daghan kaya vast land, vast resources, of course, maka-decide siya nga daghan siya i-produce kay daghan man ang iyang land. Pero kung gamay ra po niyang land as resources, gamay ra po siya i-produce kung production nun siya. And also, kung dako gamay ra po niyang kapital, gamay ra po iyang tao nga ma-hire patrabaho. Okay? Pero kung dagko siya kapital, dagko siya land, dagko siya kwarta nga punan, so daghan nga worker ang iyang i-hire. So therefore, our land resources or capital resources in the side of the industries or the firm, so it will affect the quantity of productions the firms are planning to produce and also affects the numbers of workers. Okay, like in this present situation, we are in the pandemic, no? So because of very our resources is limited ng mga kumpanya, limited ang resources. So tungod karon kay in pandemya, so ang kuan pod ang calamity, ang mga disasters like mga pandemic also affect the company, no? Ang karon ang uban wala na kay worker nagkuanta nag-lay off, no? Okay, because of scarce resources, no, it affects the decisions of the society, no? Kung gamay ra society such as for example village, barangay, purok, no, mga organizations. Okay, so because of very scarce resources, how society decides how to divide its resources between national defense, consumer goods, protecting the environment, and other needs. Sorry, and saan yan? And other needs, no? It affects the society's decision kung gamay ra ta og resources, no? Balik ko na ko. How society decides how to divide its resources between national defense, consumer goods, protecting the environment, and other needs. Uh, when we talk about the society in a smaller sense as compared to the national point of view, so ang mga barangay as a society, mga baryo-baryo as a society, as a smaller unit of society, affected also by the natures of scarce resources. For example, sa barangay, uh, or sa cooperative as a community, no, or a society, kung apektuhan gyapon sila sa ang ilang mga decision o unsaon nila pag divide allocate ang resources, so mapektuhan pod sa ilahang scarce resources. For example, kung gamay ra ang barangay, kung gamay ra sila og budget, gamay ra sila allocation, gamay ra sila og uh, budget nga gihatag sa munisipyo, so ang ilang budget as a resources affect their decisions on consumer goods. When we say consumer goods, we're talking about the goods that we normally consume every day like mga bugas, no, mga sabon, yan na siya, no. And also it affects our decision in protecting the environment and other needs, no. But the thing is, because we have very scarce resources and our response as an individual or an household in a small firm, our response, we have to budget that, we have to divide, we have to allocate our resources based on our in our hierarchy of needs based on the degree of importance. Okay, mas importante natin yung sa kabutang, so hatagaan itong dako nga budget doon. So ang nabilin nga budget para na sa uban nga dili kayo importante. So we have to define our needs so that we can prioritize sa budget sa itong mga resources tungod kay kulang siya. So that's why uh, we have to study our economics for the reason of scarcity, and you have to allocate, you have to do a budgeting. Okay, so there are 10 principles of economics that we usually and we normally do every day. Maybe we're not aware that we are doing that principles. maybe we'll be reminded of the principles that we have been following in our economic decisions. So let us see if we have been following on these succeeding principles. Okay. So the principles of how people make decision. So paano ba nga tayo mag-decide uh, in relation to economics, no? And also in relation to our scarce resources. Paano ba ang tao mag-decides? Okay? So the first principle is people face trade-offs. So when we say trade-offs, we're talking about kanang bitaw uh, magpili bito ka sa mag-decide bito ka sa duha asa ba akong buhaton abay the best nga buhaton kani kung buhaton ko ni mas maayo ka kani akong buhaton kumpara aning isa. So trade-offs, there is always a trade-offs because gamay ra atong resources. We cannot do anything, we cannot do everything. Our decision is limited by our resources, so that's why there's always a trade-off. For example, uh, karon ng pandemya, so naghuna ka kay lisod yung panahon. Kay ang ato ang panahon pod, ang atong time is limited, nga karon ang panahon is lisod. So mag-decide ka unsa ba mo eskwela ko or manarbaho ko. So you cannot sometimes you can do at the same time eskwela ka or kaya matrabaho ka. But you cannot use your full time in working at the same time full time in studying. So mean to say kung mo study ka, so naisakripisyo nimo para sa imong pagpanarbaho. Nya kung manarbaho po ka, naa po kay sakripisyo sa imong pag-eskwela. So there is always a trade-offs. Nga naman because limitado ang atong oras. So we cannot do one job in a single minute, in a single second. So pwede man nimo siya buhaton pero isa-isa sa. Then mohunong na sa kasapikas, balik mo kasapikas sa sakripisyo nimo ang mga time. So there's always a trade-offs, there's always a sacrifice. Okay? Society faces an important trade-off, no? In terms of efficiency and equality. When we say efficiency is kanang uh, sa example sa trabaho. So naisa ka trabaho nga dali ra nimo mahuman nya tipid pagkatrabaho. Efficient 'yan, no? And equality naman, so we're talking about distribution. Okay? Equal. The word equal, walay bias. Okay? Society faces an important trade-offs, efficiency and equality. Efficiency, when society gets the most from its scarce resources. Panalitan. So, we get the most out of our resources because our resources is scarce. So, panalitan, no, gamay ra imong kwarta, pero na budget nimo maayo. So, walay na usik. So, that is efficient. No efficiency. Na budget og maayo, we society get the most. So get the most. So napahimuslan nimo maayo ang imong resources. Ma-income ba na siya? Ma-labor ba na siya? Ma-land ba na siya? Ma-capital ba na siya? So kung yuta, kung nagamit mo maayo imong yuta, sa isa ka tuig nakaproduce siya kadaghan, wala siya na bakante, efficient 'yon. Kung imong sweldo na budget mo maayo, walay na usik, efficient 'yon. Ang imong mga trabahante kung naa kay kumpanya imong nasakto sila assign sa ilahang trabaho, efficient 'yan. So take note for that. That is efficiency. So when society gets the most from its scarce resources. Okay? Equality, when prosperity is distributed uniformly among society's members. So when prosperity is distributed uniformly among society's member. Ibig sabihin, for example, sa usa ka organization, sa usa ka cooperative, no? Na pagka the end sa tuig, mag-inventaryo na ta kung pila atong income, pila ato ang profit. So kung member ta, so i-divide na to ang ato ang ginansya base sa kapital nga gihatag sa usa ka miyembro diha sa co-op, no? Kung ang iyahang ang iyahang shared capital sa co-op is 1,000, ang uban is 5,000. So in terms of equality, ang sharing diha is proportionate lang sa iyahang shared capital nga naa diha sa cooperative. But another example diha sa society, diha sa mga barangay, no? So when prosperity is when equality, when prosperity is distributed uniformly among society member. But yan ang pinaka gusto natin. But sometimes there is a bias, no, in our society. But the purpose, that the ambitions of every society, every leader, should be uniformly distributed prosperity. Okay, so trade-offs, okay, to achieve a greater equality. So ibig sabihin dili ka ikamalugi kung mag-decide ka, no? So maayo pagka-distribute. So to achieve a greater equality, could redistribute income from wealthy to poor. Okay, so to achieve equality, could redistribute income from wealthy to poor. So wealthy, mga dunahan, to sa mga pobre, no? To achieve greater equality, could redistribute income from wealthy to poor. But this reduces incentive to work and shrink the size of economic pie. Okay? So take note with that. So, by the way, do we experience this every day? Of course, we experience that every day. Now, sa sinabi ko kanina, you cannot do uh, two things at the same time. For example, dili ka maka-eskwela at the same time mag-work. So naay mga tao nga mag-eskwela la sa ilang ilang i-give up ang oportunidad nga magtrabaho. Gusto na pagkahuman lang eskwela o sa na magtrabaho. So there's a trade-offs, no, na ay mga pagpili. So na ay sakripisyo, na kay sakripisyo. Okay? So another principle is the cost of something is what you give. Okay, the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Okay? The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Meaning to say, in every decision that we have, there's a money involved, or kung dili man involved ang money, there's a value that is involved. So kung nag-decide ka to buy something, so imo nang paliton, but you have to give up your money in exchange of that goods, services, no? So the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Kung gusto ka makakuha sa kabutang, so maningkamot ka kay kana makuha nimo kay naay value na imong kuhaon, naay kwarta na nga value or unsa ba nga value, no? Because ang value usahay is not just about money, no? Okay. So the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Okay. Making decisions requires comparing the cost and benefits of alternative choices. So alternative choices, we have different choices, no? But this choice is limited by our resources. That is very limited and scarce. Okay, making decisions requires comparing the cost and benefits of alternative choices. So there is cost in every decision that we have. Okay, sa binuang pa, kung gusto kang madato, kailangan na kay kwarta. So ambitions needs capital, needs resources, no? Needs money. Okay. So the opportunity cost of any item is whatever must be given up to attain it. So when we say opportunity cost, we're talking about, so the opportunity cost of any item is whatever must be given up to obtain it. Okay. When we want something, so we have to give up something that we have so that we can achieve that thing. So for example, kung mag-eskwela ta, so wala ta na trabaho, no? So kung na-decide ta nga mag-eskwela, ang cost ana, ang opportunity cost anang atong pag-eskwela is katong value unta atong panahon nga nagtrabaho pa unta ta. So ang value atong panahon nga nagtrabaho pa unta ta. For example, na-eskwela ka sa isa ka tuig. Nya gusto unta ka atong manarbaho atong wala pa ka na-eskwela, namili ka atong nga ma-eskwela ko or manarbaho ko. So now, nag-decide ka nga ma-eskwela ka, so karon i-give up nimo ang imong desisyon nga mo trabaho. Katuon ta imong pagtrabaho, naawon ta to siya'y sa katuig na ato'y value. Pila imong sweldo at untang nanarbaho pa ka sa katuig kumpara sa eskwela sa katuig. So karon kung ang isa katuig nga sweldo sa imong trabaho kung siya si 100,000 unta, sa ato pa ang opportunity cost sa imong pag-eskwela is 100,000. Kay mao man to imong gi-give up nga decision in exchange sa pag-eskwela. So nga na siya. On the other side naman, kung gipili nimo ang pagpanarbaho, nanarbaho ka, give up nimo ang pag-eskwela, ang opportunity cost sa imong decision sa pagtrabaho katuon tang knowledge nimo nga nakuha nimo sa pag-eskwela. So ang value ato is not money but the amount of knowledge, no, that you supposed to have in choosing the decision nga magtrabaho instead ng mag-eskwela. So take note, no? So there is always something that you have to give up, be it a money, be it implied cost ang tawagan, no? Not the value of money. So basta na you give up something, so be it money mo give up, value of money, or something that is of important to you nga mo give up. So that is the concept of opportunity cost. This is related to the decisions of trade-offs, no? Because of our decision to trade off something in our decision, so there is an opportunity cost for that. Okay, so thank you. Produce well, an example, no? Sa agriculture, for example, so naka-isa ka hektarya nga yuta, no, in relation to trade-offs and opportunity cost, naka-isa ka hektarya ang yuta. Now, because ang imong yuta is limited, isa lang ka hektarya, dili ka maka-expand ana kay mo lang na imong yuta aron tuiga. Okay, so you have to allocate sa imong area, i-allocate nimo imong area. Unsa ba imong itanom? So ma-decide ka nga unsa ba imong tanom, carrots or kamatis. Now you decide to plant carrots. So now, ang opportunity cost nimo katuon tang value sa imong kamatis nga imong gi-give up nga decision. So kato ta ang value at ang opportunity cost. Pero napili man ka mag carrots, so i-give up nimo ang opportunity nga carrots unta ang imong nga kamatis unta imong income. On the other side pod, kung gipili nimo nga itanom nimo ang kamatis, so ang opportunity cost nimo nga ana is katong value na pod sa carrots kung kato pa unta imong gitanom. So that is the opportunity cost, no? In every decision making that we have, there is the value of the foregone alternative, no? So foregone alternative. So opportunity cost also defined as the value of a foregone alternative in choosing a certain decision. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, in terms of the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Principle number 2, it is the relevant cost for decision making, no? So there is a cost in our every decision making. Kaya nga in our everyday life, we have to study in our decision because there must be a cost. There is always a cost in our decision, no? So tingnan natin basin og ang katudiang value sa opportunity cost nga atong i-give up nga decision, dako pa daytog value kumpara sa atong actual nga gibuhat. So we have to study because there is always an opportunity cost in every decision that we have. Okay? For example, sa trabaho, mo decide ka nga mohawa ka sa trabaho kay mabalhin ka atong isa ka trabaho. So ang opportunity cost nimo katong value sa imong gihawaan nga trabaho. Okay? So nga na siya. Nya pag ando di ay nihawa ka sa trabaho kay mangita kag laing trabaho, imo nang give up tong trabaho na lugi na ka sa opportunity cost pero wa pa ka kakuha og trabaho. So make sure about every decision making in life. Okay? So there's some examples in here, although I already given some examples, but let us try to look at this one. So examples. The opportunity cost of going to college for a year is not just the tuition, books, and fees, but also the foregone wages. Nabanggit ko na kanina. For example, another example here is seeing a movie is not just price of the ticket. Kung tanaw kag movie, ang price ana ang cost ana is di lang katong movie, but the value of time you spend in the theater. So ingani. So pag tanaw nimo sa movie, ang value anang movie katong gibayad nimo sa ticket. Pero dili lang na siya mao ang value sa movie. Apil pud ang value atong oras sa pagtan-aw nimo sa movie. Kay for example, kay katong pagtan-aw nimo sa salida sa 2 ka oras. Katong 2 ka oras kung wala pa unta ka nagtan-aw og movie, nagamit unta to sa laing trabaho. Nang hagbas ba ka, nang lawag ba kag baboy, or kaya nagtrabaho ba ka, naa tatoy value tong pagtanaw ang oras sa pagtanaw mo sa movie. So ning to say ang pagtanaw nimo sa movie, ang value ato katong ticket, ang value sa ticket kung tagpila plus katong value atong oras unta nimo kung nanarbaho ka atong pagtanaw nimo sa movie. So yan ang very the best example. So klaro. All right. Okay, so let's proceed. So again, trade-offs, we make that every day. Then the opportunity cost in every decision, we also made that every day. Okay? So another principle is the rational people think at the margin. Rational people think at the margin. When we say rational people, ang tao is rational. Ibig sabihin, perminti siya sa iyang mga desisyon na ay mga rason, rational. So rationally. So unsay mo'hang rason nganong kana imong gibuhat? So there must be a reason why people do something. So lisod po no, magtrabaho ta, nga utak ibalo anong trabaho ta na. So there must be a reason in every decision that we have. So because we are rational being. Okay? Rational people think at the margin. When we say margin, ang meaning diha is kanang increase, no? Unsa di ay uminto? Unsa di ay increase kung kani ang akong buhaton? Unsa di ay ako ang ginansya kung kani akong buhaton? So ibig sabihin, dunay kalambuan gamay, dunay kung sa ginansya pa sa negosyo pa naay ginansya sa imong matag decision. Okay? So rational people think at the margin. Unsa bay kaayuhan kung kani akong i-desisyon, kani akong buhaton. So ingon ana. So people think at the margin. So we are rational being. So we are rational being. So rational people systematically and purposely do the best they can to achieve their objectives. So lahat tayo mayroon tayong mga objectives, no? So I don't want people living without sense of purpose. So mayroon tayong purpose talaga. Dapat mayroon tayong targets. As a student, there must be a target. As a businessman, so there must be a target. No? Ang uban is ambitious. So we should be ambitious enough because ambition fueled our action. So objective also fuel our action. So mo hinungdan na mulihok ta tungod kinatay ambition na tay objective. So again, systematically and purposely, when we say systematically, we have to decide scientifically, we have to decide logically, and purposely, and do the best to achieve our objectives, no? uh, ako sa una, no, I am very concerned with the purpose. Unsa ba akong buhaton rong tuiga? Unsa ba akong target rong tuiga, no? And even now, I have been thinking of for example, because I am a government worker, so even now I have been contemplating on doing business. So other than income from the salary as a government worker, so I am thinking of putting a business. Okay, so that is one of my objectives right now. So I hope I can do that. Okay? So, rational people systematically and purposely do the best they can to achieve their objectives. And we have our different objectives, no? Well, ano mo kung sa inyong mga objectives in life. Kung sa inyong objectives sa panimalay, o di sa inyong mga businesses, inyong firms, industry, no? Okay. So, make decision by evaluating cost and benefits of marginal changes. So, when we say marginal changes, we're talking about incremental adjustment to an existing plan. So, example, no? By the way, before that, so make decisions evaluating cost. So, iyan ang sinabi kanina, in every decisions that we have to decide what is the value in making that decision, because there always be a cost of that decision. There is an opportunity cost of that decision. So, make decision by evaluating cost. Pila day gasto ani? Pila bang equivalent nga capital ani, no? And also evaluate the benefits. So, what is the benefits kung kanya kong buhaton of a marginal changes? For example, sa natay yuta isa ka hektarya. Okay? So, ato ang production is saging. Isa ka hektaryang yuta. Mauni ang, example, isa ka hektaryang yuta, ang abot niya is 100 tons. 100,000 kilograms, no? 100 tons, sa hektarya, 100 tons. Nya mag-decide ta nga mapalit ka kuno additional, no? Additional dungag. Mapalit ka kuno og tunga sa hektarya nga yuta aron akong idungag sa akong capital nga land capital nga isa ka hektarya para isa ka hektarya tunga na. Nya kung modungag og tunga sa hektarya, pila ka dungag nga abot ana, no? Sa tunga sa hektarya pila dungag nga abot ana. So that is marginal changes, pilay dugang, pilay additional output. That is marginal changes, marginal output sa atong marginal input. Ang atong input niya, capital, labor, no? So for example, another example is naa kay magbuhat tag yima. So magbuhat tag yima nya magbuhat tag yima ang naa kay shall we say naa kay 5 ka tawo kada adlaw ang nagbuhat sa yima. So kanang 5 ka tawo kada adlaw, shall we say makabuhat sila 1,000 ka yima sa isa ka adlaw. So 5 ka tawo makabuhat og 1,000 yima sa kaadlaw. But gusto nimo nga mo increase ang production sa yima, gusto ka maabot og taas, so you decide to add workers na pananglitan. 5 man to dati mingon ka nga magdungag ka kog isa ka tawo. So isa ka tawo ibig sabihin marginal changes in labor. So naa kay sa imong existing plan nga 5 magdungag kag isa. So marginal increase of worker, of one worker. So na kay karoy unom ka worker. Kay nag-change pa ka from 5 dungagan og isa nagiging 6 worker. But sa 5 nagproduce ka og 1,000. Kung madungag ka og isa ikaunom, pila pug kaha ang increase sa imong production. For example, ang increase sa imong production is imbis 1,000 nya nahimo na siyang 1,200, so nag-increase ka karong 200. Ibig sabihin kung mag-increase ka isa ka worker, marginal labor nga 1, naka-increase karon nga 200. So again, make decision by evaluating the cost. Nya pila day ang additional cost nako kung magdungog isa ka labor. Nya pila pud ang additional day nga benefits in terms of pila ang madungag sa ilahang na-produce nga yima. So we're talking about the evaluating the cost, pila ang additional cost kung madungag og isa ka tawo, ug pila pud ang additional production kung magdungag og isa ka tawo. So that is the incremental adjustment to an existing plan. So adjustment of an existing plan, what is the adjustment in terms of output? So that is the marginal. So people think at the margin. So kung mag-change ko sa akong decision, what is the resulting benefits or production kung ako ang tagi sa kumpanya nga gamay, or nga na siya, no, sa mga ginagmay ng mga negosyo. So rational people think at the margin. Do we think that every day? Yes, of course, no. Ako for example, trabahante ko, I have been thinking of gusto ko mabalhin og trabaho. So changes in decision, balhin og trabaho. gusto ko mabalhin og trabaho, but I am thinking of kung mabalhin kog trabaho, pila day increase nga sweldo kung mabalhin ko dito. So you're always thinking of margin increase. Another is simple lang sa pagpalit sa duha ka tindahan. So nagpalit ka og sugar di sa isa ka tindahan. Napoy baligya nga sugar sa pikas tindahan. Diri ka dati magsikag palit sa tindahan A sa una. Pero imong nabalitaan nga mas barato di ay ang sugar dito sa pikas nga tindahan. So mobalhin nga palit. So you decide yung decision nimo di na ka mo padayon sa imong dati nga customer ay mo sa imong suki. Mabalhin ka sa pikas nga tindahan because kung mabalhin ka didto makatipid kag gamay. So ang cost didto, you evaluate the cost, ang cost dito mas barato kumpara sa pikas. So ang benefits nimo dito is nakatipid ka kung balhin ka. So we always think of a margin. In our decision making kung unsa tong paliton, we always think of additional benefits in every decision, be it kung namalit bata or namaligya bata. Okay? So we always think at the margin. So ganun din ang mga negosyo, no? Yan na po ang negosyo. Yan na po ang mga tao as consumer. Okay? So there is example in here. When a student considers whether to go to college for additional year, he compares the fees and the foregone wages to the extra income he could earn with the extra year of education. Yan, sinabi ko kanina, sa opportunity cost. So, all these things are related to opportunity cost. Okay? Another principles of economics is people responds to incentive. So, kung for example, kung sa incentive sa itong decision, pananglitan, kung mapalit kag daghan, babaan ako ang presyo kung pagkag volume, no? So doon na incentive kung naay mga sales, kung naay mga bitang paubos ang presyo, nag-sale ang mall karon. So atong desisyon dayon piktuhan sa sale, no? So people responds to incentives, no? So incentive, something that is induces a person to act. So makaapekto, induces, no? Makaapekto sa atong action. For example, the prospect of a reward or punishment. For example, no, sa eskwelahan, mga estudyante man ta, no? A response to incentive, mingon lugar ko. Sige, magpabuhat ko og project. Ang makahuman og sayo before the deadline, tagaan ako additional points. So, ang additional points kung makamag sayo, mao na ang incentive. Action dayon nimo, so maning kamot ka, paspasan nimo trabaho, ang action, no, para makuha nimo ang incentive. So that is people responds to incentive. Pero pamati nimo is kanang wala incentive niya, maestro, stricto pa kayo, di ka ganahan. So ang action nimo da luya, no? So people responds to incentive, something that induces our persons to act in terms of prospect and in terms of rewards. Yun nga sa tindahan, yung ganina, mag-sale sila, so daghan na itong paliton, no? Or kaya kung ingon po ang tindahan, kung mapalit ka 1,000 ka pieces, so na kay discount. Nga na, so we also, discount is also an incentive, no? Example. So rational people responds to incentive. Examples, when gas price rise, sa gasolina, kung increase ang presyo, okay, when gas prices rise, consumers buy more. Okay, when gas price rise, consumers buy more of hybrid cars and a fewer gasoline SUV. So panalitan, kung mamahal ang presyo sa gasolina, ang ato ang decision sa palit og mga sakyanan, sa mamili tag sakyanan katong mga tipid o gasolina kay mahal ang gasolina di ba? May another example, when cigarette taxes increases, katong manigarilyo ay kung mataas ang tax sa cigarette, then tin smoking fools, no? Wala na kayo ang atong decision din sa pagpanigarilyo maapektuhan di kita manigarilyo kay mahal. So this is in terms of rewards and punishment. Ano siya, no? Okay. So yes, in punishment, for example, in our decisions, even sa awang action nato sa mga criminal action, for example, kung na death penalty sa mga criminal ilang decision, mga hadlok po sila. But sa we are just talking about sa mga economics, economic decision, economic goods, no? Ayun, no? So this is that is the how people make decisions, no? Economic decisions. Well, another is we have the principles of how people interact, how people interact. So, but before we discuss this topic, so we have to continue this discussion on previous on next meeting. No, I hope you understand. Next time we have to discuss about the trade can make everyone better off. Okay, so this so we have to discuss this next meeting. So I hope you understand and you're able to relate, no? You're able to relate yung mga principles and how people make decisions in our economic decision every day. Okay, so that is all for now. And please don't feel to listen or view our discussion on the succeeding session. So thank you so much.